Fans of former President Donald Trump are melting down after a third state has removed him from the ballot. A state judge in Illinois ruled that Trump cannot appear on the primary ballot due to being disqualified under the insurrection clause of the 14th Amendment, specifically Section 3, which originally was to ban Confederates from running for office. Illinois joins Colorado and Maine in doing this and making this decision and removing Donald Trump. That said, the case from Colorado has actually already gone to the Supreme Court. They're scheduled to rule any day now on whether the states are actually allowed to remove candidates from ballots using the insurrection clause. It's not very likely that they're going to uphold the Colorado ruling. But in the meantime, Trump supporters erupted with sound and fury, of course, especially aimed at Cook County Circuit Judge Tracy Porter, who had issued the ruling. In fact, Trump influencer Colin Rugg writes, "They rigged the election in 2020, and they're trying to do it again in 2024. Wait, but there is no evidence that they rigged it in 2020. Sorry, try again. He said during a recent show, Tucker Carlson explained how the 2024 election was rigged, and specifically in pointing out how the left changed rules with mail-in ballots. Mail-in ballots are perfectly legal and absolutely acceptable and have been used for a long time. Using mail-in ballots, which, by the way, you changed the rules, right, to allow for more mail-in ballots. That also benefits your side. I don't know if you know that, but that benefits you guys too. Okay, but it benefits all voters. Yeah, but somehow rigged. Yeah, of course. For those that are new here, the 2020 election was the first election in 70 years where bellwether counties did not successfully elect the first U.S. president. It was about the same election. It was also the same election, but the rules were changed and ballots were dumped into blue cities. That's right. Of course, we're talking about
dumps, big, massive dumps.
Yeah, of course. Yes. The ballots were dumped, everybody. Dumped. Another one wrote, "Meet radical Democrat Cook County Circuit Judge Tracy R. Porter, who just ordered President Trump removed from the Illinois primary ballot." Again, primary ballot. We're not talking about the general election here at this point. This person asks, "Who else thinks Tracy Porter is a disgrace to the judiciary and a crap stain on the rule of law?" Another person named Travis posted, "Is this democracy? One radical judge can remove a presidential candidate from the ballot because she doesn't like him? How do you know?" Again, they're supposed to rule on the Constitution. And again, the 14th Amendment, Section 3, says that, hey, if you do insurrection, you can be removed from the ballot. Okay. Now, this person says, "She claims it's due to the 14th Amendment, but we all know the truth." Do you, though? Do you? Another person writes, "Corrupt Judge Tracy Porter removed Trump from the Illinois primary and general election ballot for partaking in an insurrection. When was Trump or anyone charged with insurrection? How many corrupt effing judges are in our country?" Okay, but you don't have to be charged with insurrection. Okay. No, you're right. Nobody's been charged with insurrection. Okay. Now, the closest you have is seditious conspiracy. Okay. But Donald Trump hasn't been charged with seditious conspiracy. And guess what? Section 3 of the 14th Amendment doesn't require a criminal conviction or charges to remove it. Yeah. In fact, following the Civil War, many former Confederates were disqualified from office through Section 3, although they were not charged with insurrection or treason. So it's not a requirement. Hey. Now, look, there are questions the Supreme Court is going to take up, right? One of them is, does January 6th qualify as an insurrection? And there's a lot of difference of opinion on this, and it's not necessarily lined up ideologically, okay? So, for example, Gerard Maglioka, an Indiana University law professor who served as an expert witness, said during testimony in the Colorado case that insurrection, as it was understood in the 1860s, was any public use of force or threat of force by a group of people to hinder the execution of the law. So I guess based on that definition, yeah. That said, Robert Dillahunty, a Claremont Institute fellow who testified as an expert for Trump in the Colorado case, says someone would have to take up arms to be considered an insurrectionist and pointed at Trump, saying, well, he didn't do that. He wasn't carrying a gun. Well, yeah. I mean, could you imagine? Could you imagine Donald Trump, get holding a rifle and charging in the front lines? No. Obviously, the bone spurs would get in the way of that. Weapon or no. Okay. Although he'd have to remember which foot they're on. Maybe they're both of them. I don't know. But seriously, though, you see that experts are divided. There are arguments that Trump incited the crowd, and that counts as insurrection, aiding an insurrection. Others say that he didn't explicitly tell the crowd to attack, so, therefore that's not aiding in an insurrection. There are also arguments that if the president is considered an officer of the United States or not, and if this, if so, then it would apply. If not, then that would not apply. There's, of course, the court can take up all these different questions in their ruling, okay? Or they could sidestep it completely and not even address the insurrection question at all by ruling that Donald Trump just never took an oath that would subject him to Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. That seems like to be the more likely option, I think. One that just completely avoids the question of insurrection. So, that said, one more. An Illinois judge in Cook County just removed President Trump from the state's ballots. What a joke. Cook County is the most corrupt in the country. This crooked judge should be locked up. Yes. So it's the entire county corrupt. And we should throw judges in jail for making rulings. Really? Rulings that you don't like. Now, here's the thing. Do I like that this has gone to the courts? No. I don't think, I don't like it. I don't think a lot of people like that this had to go to the courts. I actually really do think that it was Congress's job to determine if Trump should be eligible to run. And that was, and that should have been decided in his second impeachment over January 6th. Now, of course, the problem with that is that Senate Republicans were too cowardly and passed the buck. They were afraid to remove Trump. They didn't want to remove Trump or bar him from running again. And so passed the buck and washed their hands of it. And now it's fallen to the states and now to the courts. So as far as my personal feelings about it, obviously, I think that Trump 100% wanted to overturn the results of the election based on something that he knew was not true, the big lie. He and his allies took steps to try to do that, from pressuring election officials in Georgia, Michigan, telling Brad Raffensperger, for example, to find 11,780 votes. And then, of course, telling, other election officials, not to, or secretaries of state, not to certify Joe Biden's win, even though, again, there was no evidence of widespread voter fraud. Then, of course, there was pressuring his vice president to not certify the election in Congress, which in their minds would have allowed for fake electors to try to steal the election for him based on these, unproven, unfounded allegations of voter fraud. And I think that really, all of that together, the Eastman memo, all of this, that was a real effort to try to stop the peaceful transfer of power. Thankfully, he failed. We had a peaceful transfer of power, but I do believe he will try again. And I do believe that he is setting up a way for him to succeed, he and his allies. So first, Congress failed. I think the courts will likely not rule against Donald Trump. I think they'll ultimately just sidestep this question, and that would be a failure as well, which means the last line of defense will be left to the voters.